everyone, and welcome to this episode of Writers Infusion. I'm your host, Susan. I'm here with Dave, Jen, Julie, and Ed, the team. We are here to critique an excerpt, a literary excerpt, called Exploring the Universe by Carol Malthaner. And these pages are extracted from the middle of the story. So Julie's going to read the story, and then we'll do the critique.
Summary. This is a chapter in a novel, Exploring the Universe, and in this chapter, Krista reminiscing about her life, eventually explaining how her maternal actions have resulted in her teenage daughter taking over another character's mobile home in Florida while that character has it locked up for the season. Chapter. Go to your loom. When I was really little, I mean barely talking little, if my grandmother suggested, "Why don't you go to your room and play for a while?" I would crawl into my mother's enormous cavernous loom, the one her father had built for her when he couldn't afford to buy her the beautiful Swedish Grimma Krause she wanted. As far as I was concerned, that loom was my room. In fact, it wasn't until shortly before I started school, maybe I was around 4, and maybe my grandmother was worried that I would sound ignorant in kindergarten, that she finally had to explain that not all rooms were looms and that there was a difference that my biased ears had not yet picked up on. "Krista," she said, while writing in big block letters on her grocery pad, "what's this letter?" "L," I replied. She knew I knew the alphabet. Where was this going? "Okay, now what's this letter?" "R." Fortunately for her, and me too, I guess, I didn't yet know to say duh. That came in first grade, but my face was probably the visual equivalent of duh right then. She persisted. "Krista, now really pay attention," she instructed. "I want you to say this letter," it was the L, "and notice where your tongue is touching when you finish saying it." It took a few tries, and she finally had to tell me to say L. And then when I got to the end to keep saying it, sort of like humming the L, that worked. I noticed my tongue on the roof of my mouth, but I was still in the dark as to what she was getting at. Tongues aside, I still heard my loom as the place to go play. "Okay, you're doing great. Now hum R. Where is your tongue?" I tried. I really tried. I mean, she did get me to hum R, but I did not get the connection. All this fuss had to do with my loom. She must have noticed tears welling up in my eyes, because the story goes that she said we'd done enough and that I should go play in my room. I agreed and ran to the sun porch in my beloved loom. Now, before you think I was backwards or something, I probably should add that the way in which I used my loom only helped to further confuse my ability to discern the two words. For example, the loom was not just my secret hideaway, my house if I was playing with my dolls, and my fort when I was playing with my pirate ship Legos. It was also where I slept at night and where I kept the old green trunk with all my clothes. That other place upstairs with that big girl bed she bought to lure me up there into a life of normalcy was not my loom. Grandma could buy me all the furniture she wanted, but my loom was here in the sun porch, where as an infant, my mother lay me to sleep on the floor while she wove. It was where, as an older baby, I used to roll around on my rubber keyboard, creating asymmetrical scales as I inched and reached to get a block or my Dumbo elephant or her keys. Of course, I don't remember all this, but Grandma watched it all happen, and so after Mom died, she understood why I tended to crawl back under there, no matter where she left me in the house to play, and to cry bloody murder if she tried to pull me out. She eventually gave up, and so for years now, my loom was my room. In fact, I suspect I did not truly understand these linguistic subtleties until I was 7, and my best friend gave me a little toy lap loom for my birthday. That probably goes down as my best ever childhood present, partly because I loved the rhythm of weaving with it, but also because I loved the organizing of a new project. The selecting of yarns, or the tearing up of fabric, or the collecting of feathers, or drying of flowers. Like a good cook, I liked to get all my ingredients ready and lined up before I started. I wove with a plan, the inspiration happening first, the weaving merely the implementation of that plan, a serene back and forthing that allowed my idea to emerge before my gaze, all perfect, all as expected, all mine. Of course, my grandmother watched all this for several months, as she watched everything I did, and although I had always considered her a smart one, truly wise like a fairy godmother, I'm sure it did not require rocket science to deduce it was time to show me what else I could do with my loom besides use it for a bedroom. Now that day I remember, the day my loom became my loom. We had to take off the various covers we had draped over it, the pink baby quilt over the back left side for when I wanted to play house, and I still did when I was 8, and the big navy green wool army blanket over the right side for playing Legos. and the oversized blue sweatshirt draped over the seat to create a puppet theater that my friends and I could crouch behind to perform for Grandma. Once those coverings were off, all the clutter that accumulated underneath lay exposed. Grandma said that the treadles would not work with Legos and puppets and shoes and dirty socks underneath them, so we had to get 2 of her laundry baskets and load all the stuff into those. When we were done, my beloved loom looked naked, as if vultures had swooped in and consumed all the tasty parts, leaving a skeleton of its former self behind. This was a bittersweet experience for me, as you can imagine, and the sweetness might have flown out the window if my wise grandmother, knowing how I like to work, had not entered into this activity fully prepared. While I stood there trying to decide if I was too old to cry, she disappeared into the kitchen and quickly returned with not bags, but boxes, several boxes of supplies, so I could get started on a project right away. She said she knew I hadn't planned it all out, but how could I if I didn't know how this loom worked? What it could do? This would be a practice project, she explained, just a project to figure the big loom all out. I could even take the project apart when I got the hang of things and reuse the materials if I wanted. But let me tell you, at the risk of spoiling any punchline this story might have, I certainly did not take that glorious project apart when I was done. In fact, to this day, it is one of my dearest possessions, and I hung it over my daughter Tony's crib many years later. But getting back to the story, those before-mentioned tears over my denuded loom were still lurking and might have gushed in full force if it wasn't for the splendor, the delicious, beckoning possibilities of the large, brilliantly covered spools that my grandmother pulled out of the boxes. Spools, not just skeins, I'm telling you. I'm sure you remember the intoxication you felt as a kid when you opened the top of a new box of Crayolas, especially the 96 count, with the built-in crayon sharpener at the back, and all those pointy virgin colors blinked out at you. Well, multiply that by 100, maybe 1,000, and that's how I suddenly felt as I looked around the room. Those spools stood at attention. Luscious purples, startling greens, fiery reds, and insouciant hot pinks, all waiting for my command. But any future general still has to go through basic training, and without much fanfare, that's what Grandma launched me into. What colors do you want to play around with? Pick just 2 for now, she barked, and then she added more gently, Krista, pick 2 pretty ones for your new loom.
I thought it was just terrific.
Yeah.
The most difficult thing in all the world of writing is to transfer emotion into words. And these last 2 pages were an aria, just magnificently well done. There's one sentence here, yeah. But this is on my, it's page 4. But getting back to the story, before the mentioned tears over my denuded loom were still lurking and might have gushed in full force if it weren't for the splendor, the delicious beckoning possibilities of the large, brilliantly colored spools that my grandmother pulled out of the boxes. Spools, not just skeins, I'm telling you. That is just magnificent. That's love. I mean, that's, for a 7-year-old, how else would love be described? I thought it was a couple of clunky sentences
Yes.
here, but that's all I could find.
Yeah.
Because the writing was just magnificent.
Yeah, I was not, okay, this is not my kind of story.
Right.
You know, no robots, no,
Yeah, no
death rays or
spaceships,
anything
yeah.
like that.
This is in the middle,
But,
it's an excerpt. The robots may precede or succeed. Don't
Good point.
Okay.
But, and when I started, I didn't have a lot of hopes. I was like, oh, dear,
Okay.
what is this? But like, by the time I was like a paragraph into this, it was like, oh my gosh, this is so sweet and so, I don't know.
Full of
Just-
emotion.
Yep.
There's emotion in these words.
Yep.
You know, you read these words and they squish with emotion. Maybe that's a bad analogy. You know what I mean?
I loved some of the sentences too. On page 3 on my copy, it says, I wove with a plan, the inspiration happening first, the weaving merely the implementation of that plan, a serene back and forthing that allowed my idea to emerge before my gaze. All perfect, all as expected, all mine.
Perfect.
It almost makes me cry.
That's great stuff. That's just great stuff.
Yeah.
Some of the imagery was nice about comparing the naked loom to the picked over skeleton from vultures, and just the describing the crayon box.
Oh, I
Yeah.
couldn't
That's
comment.
lovely.
I touched my chest though. I
Yeah.
remember that Crayola box.
I do
Oh my
too.
gosh.
Yeah, I don't think we had that either when I was a kid. I think my neighbors had the sharpener in the back.
We did.
So that
Oh,
was
the rich
very
people next
special.
door,
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah, I think that the voice in this story is very strong. Like doesn't read
In command, yeah.
Yeah, it's obviously a very distinct voice, uniquely hers, which is tough to do, and that agents love.
You know what's also amazing? This is a flashback. I mean, from what we're told,
Yeah.
you know, this isn't the main story.
Right.
This is just the flashback. It's like, what is the story like?
I know it.
Yeah.
Well, I
You know?
think we know why they're talking about the R's in her pronunciation. Maybe she has a hard time in the
Yeah,
story
I
itself.
was
'Cause
confused a little bit, but where it was in the middle of the story, maybe it was
explain.
explained earlier. But at first, I thought maybe she had a speech impediment. Like,
Oh, I didn't
because
think that
I,
at all.
well,
Like
because
that.
I
She just
didn't
took
know.
the concept of
Because I don't think
Yeah.
of a loom as cavernous, like, but I don't know a lot about looms, and I
she
didn't.
was tiny.
I didn't know what a suite, but I looked up looms. I looked up pictures. There aren't that many looms that you can fit under because it has that foot thing.
Right.
That's the
Right.
technical term, the foot thing,
Foot thing.
which I think she names in here.
I like
Shows you
that.
how much I,
I
know
thought
about
they were
looms.
implying that she couldn't speak properly, or that she
Right,
couldn't read
no, I
properly.
can't. The L and the
She was-
R.
She's 4 years old.
She was associating this
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
her
she just got it
personal
wrong.
space.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just got confused with that. But like I said, it's the middle, so it might be clear that she actually has
Right.
a loom,
Yeah.
you know, prior to this, in which
Yeah.
case I wouldn't have been confused. But just seeing this part, I was like, is her grandmother trying to make her pronounce the
That's what I
letter
thought.
Yes.
because she's got like a little speech impediment? Like,
See, that's what I
is she
think.
really talking about a cavernous room? And not a loom. And obviously, it became clear later, but I was confused there.
Well, she couldn't pronounce one of the letters, so I don't know.
Well, my daughter said calipitter until she was 15 years old.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, but I'm just saying, I didn't realize if
Maybe
there was
not
actually
15.
a loom, or if it was actually a room. That's
Oh,
what I'm
I thought
saying.
it was a loom for sure.
Yeah, no,
but
I
I
didn't.
still thought.
Oh, it is a loom, but it was her personal play space. That's
Right.
what
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
considered
Yeah,
a
like
It's
under
room.
the
clear
bed,
now,
yeah.
yeah.
So then, out of this whole group, I'm probably the only person who feels a little bit differently about how it's done. So I might as well say it,
No, I'm with you.
right?
Go for it.
Because I
I
do.
know, it's Freaky Friday. We're
I know.
switching
I do think that the
roles.
writing's beautiful, but I honestly feel like it's a lot of telling, and I personally would get more out of it if it were more showing. So, and I didn't know if she could do this or not, but through the story, maybe instead of having it all in one place, I was wondering if she could actually separate this a little bit and have maybe there be 3 different scenes throughout the book where she's looking back, and maybe the first scene is when the mother has died, because really this whole thing is that's her place to go when her mom dies, but I don't feel any connection to her mom with her.
But it might be. It's just because this is a
No, that's
Maybe,
true.
I
We
don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't
So, but the way I'm looking at this is I'd want a piece of it from right after her mother died, and this is where she went to be with her mother. And then the scene with, like, at the end where the grandmother's bringing out everything, even though I think the language is beautiful, I still think it might be nice if there's a little bit more back and forth between her and the grandmother, and then she's thinking this in between what she's saying, so that we see what the conversation was like. I mean, and then you have with that first conversation that happened, she remembered the whole conversation. This is just a glitch. But then on the next page it says, where does it say it? Oh my gosh. I put the story, she must have noticed tears welling up in my eyes, because the story goes that she said we'd done enough and that I should go play in my room. I agreed and ran to the sun porch of my beloved loom, but what does that mean, the story goes? She's remembered the entire conversation up till here.
I'm
that's
wondering
just,
who's remembering.
right, so that's a
Grandma's-
little, to me, that's a little glitch to just pay attention to. So I saw it differently. I felt like you could almost take this and break it up into 3 different scenes, disperse it throughout the book, and have each one be more of a scene where we're, especially with when her mom dies. And again, maybe that's in the book.
Yeah.
I can't disagree more. I'm going to critique the critique.
We're getting
This-
meta. We're
this-
getting meta here.
This builds momentum
Fractals.
as the story goes along. And it culminates, it clarifies itself on the last page.
Yeah.
I thought it was just terrific.
Yeah,
That's
I thought there was some long sentences. Like I
Yeah,
needed a couple more periods in
Yeah.
there. But again, that adds to the voice too, where she kind of interrupts herself and then adds something and then goes back to the other statement. But just a couple more periods, and then there's one section, and again, I'm reaching to find something here, but where when she's talking about the crayon, she addresses the reader directly.
Yes,
And
there are a few places she does that.
And it's okay if it's done throughout the whole book. I only noticed it once in these pages, so if it's the only time that you do it, then you might want to just reword that. But if it's something that's done throughout the book, then it's fine.
I crossed that out. I didn't think it was necessary.
Yeah, unless throughout the book she is addressing the reader directly
Right.
as part of her style,
What I
her writing
see
style.
now, before you think backwards, I was backwards or something, and she uses you quite a few times,
Yeah.
and then says, I don't want to get ahead of myself and spoil the punchline, but I thought, tell us later
No,
then.
you're
Don't
right.
tell us about Tony, the baby in the crib. But it's Freaky Friday because I want to be critical, and Dave was so complimentary. I don't know what to do with us today. We don't know how far this is into the book. I'm very curious. I'm really curious what scene or what chapter preceded this one. But I need to know more about the mom. I don't want the loom to just be... How'd I do? I said loom and room, all in the right places. I was so afraid I would mistake one for the other.
We'll pick you up on
The loom is an object. I don't
Yeah.
feel the emotional connection. There are some beautiful scenes, and you have beautiful wording, but I want to know how she felt when her mom was at the loom, what she did when her mom was at the loom. If she compares her chubby childhood fingers to her mother's graceful, slender ones, how her mother moved at that loom, the emotions she felt. We need
That's
some
what I want,
nostalgia.
too.
But she might not
That's what
remember
I'm
it
longing.
if her mother died
Well, when did her mother
she was a
die?
baby, right? And we don't know that.
That is true.
Well, then what's drawing her to be at that
Right,
room?
Because
if
she
she's
says here that
connected.
the grandmother, once the mother died, because that's where her
the
mother always
grandmother may be
was, that no matter where the grandmother put her to play, she always ended up finding
So
her
then
by the
she
loom.
does remember her
I
mother.
think yes. I
But,
think she's drawn.
she might not remember it all, but that loom is obviously a source of comfort for
Yeah,
her.
trace memory.
She may She may not remember every single detail, but it is a place of comfort and security for her. The one thing, huge mystery. She talks about the project that she made, but she never says what it was.
Right.
I want to know what the
we see
glorious
that,
project
yes.
was that she hung over her
Yes.
daughter's bed.
It's the last line.
How could you leave that out?
It's from Citizen Kane. It's the last line.
Suspense.
Object.
I know. Unless she hung something earlier in the book over her daughter's crib, so
Right.
you
Yeah,
know
the
where it
trouble is
was.
it's the middle of the
Right.
story.
Right,
Yeah.
sometimes
So-
that's tough.
You have some beautiful vocabulary. I would be really careful with word choice, though. I want you to use gorgeous language, but not misuse the language. The two I would point out were discern on page 2. I think I would use differentiate between the two words. And insouciant is fabulous on page 4, but I don't think it describes hot pinks. I don't think they would be nonchalant. They'd be pretty bold.
Oh, can I bring something? Okay, can I bring something up that just baffled me? And maybe this
Yes.
is just me. All right. So on page 3, the big navy green wool. What's navy green? I thought navy was blue.
Oh, my
Like
dad had a green army
camouflage.
blanket. Maybe it wasn't
The
navy,
color of
but there's a
camouflage.
green. There's a green
It's
army
like an
blanket I had for
olive
my
green.
dad.
Khaki green?
Dad's army
It's like a
days.
camouflage green.
Navy green? No, I agree.
Plus
What is
Navy blue,
green?
but it would
Yeah.
be army green.
Plus,
an
it's navy
I
green.
think
you're right, you're
a
right, it's
navy
army
green
green.
wool army blanket.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think she may have had
Maybe it's
So-
two
navy
different
and green.
descriptors. And
You're
then-
right, maybe it is army green.
Or maybe it's navy
I can
and
see
green,
it.
or
I
maybe
think
I
it's
didn't get
have
that.
it. We took
I
it
know
to
what she
camp.
meant.
Yeah.
I know what she
But,
meant.
I
when she
just
said
kind of
it.
read over it.
Good
Yeah.
point.
And when she calls them virgin colors, I felt a little like, I don't know if that's the word.
No, but they're
Well, they're
pristine. They're
they're
untouched.
Pristine
They're
might-
pristine.
Point
Pristine
is,
might be
they're
better.
unused, they're...
I know
So,
what the point
yeah.
is, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the word to use
Right.
when you're talking about child
We're really
Right.
stuff. Oh, I know.
We're really scraping.
Well,
around
I
for
wasn't
something
scraping.
It's
I'm
like-
looking for something a little
I
different.
can't find
So
it.
It's
I
like,
had
it's like
to-
critiquing the frame on the Matisse.
I had to
you know,
access the Chicago Manual of Style.
Yes.
So when you're talking about a letter, you italicize it. That is the Chicago Manual of Style lesson for the day.
Where-
kids.
on Thank which- you.
So when her
part?
grandmother is talking to her about the letters,
The letters
it's okay
are
if it's
now.
in dialogue that the L and the R, but when she refers to the L and the R in like as the
yeah, I see.
Oh, that's
narrator,
interesting.
the
I've always
L-
wondered
That
about
means
that.
blue. It says
it's like
So, like, when she
7.386 in the Chicago Manual of Style.
Oh my gosh,
Something like
that's
that, like
So when she
5
says it was the L,
Yeah,
then
you
that
would
be
italicize the
italicized.
letter. If you're talking about L and it's the letter L or the letter
Yeah.
R, are, then you italicize it.
So everyone else feels like they're reaching. I'm the only person that feels like
No, I
not
think
reaching.
there's something missing.
Like I
There's
feel
some
like
beautiful
3 different
language.
scenes maybe you could get out of it, and you could disperse it through the book and keep the language.
I love the reminiscence.
You're wrong, but whatever.
I love the reminiscent aura that it has. But it's tough because we don't know what precedes it and we don't know what it's leading up to. I mean,
Right.
in the summary, she says
summary throws
what
us.
it's leading up to, but we don't
I
have.
had to read the summary 4
We're
times.
stretching if we're looking
Yeah.
before and after.
Right.
Just take this as given. It is a memory. Here's the memory. This is what I recall, this is what I went through, and forget about everything else. I mean, the rest of one of the comments I said is this is very difficult to maintain throughout the whole book. You can't do memories and maintain an audience. This is great as like a little nugget of interesting. But then you have to go on, and somebody has to die, or there's going to be a shootout or a car chase.
A conflict.
Something.
I don't know if they're gonna have a car chase in a loom book.
No.
It's a little
I don't
blurry,
know.
so
We
there won't
have
be any
a
changes.
we have a mobile
That's right.
home park.
Lasers?
We have a mobile home park. There could be a car
Yeah.
chase. That'd be
Maybe.
exciting. I don't think there will be.
All right, well, so I'm the lone wolf over here, but that's
No, I'm
okay.
with you. I
All right,
said
so we have
with
2
you.
lone
We have
wolves.
2 not so lone wolves. They're
Yeah,
pretty
all right,
tough
good.
wolves.
All right, is there anything else we want to bring up?
Wolves.
No, I feel really bad that I can't hate it.
Dave
one of those
is
things.
dying to hate it, and he just
can't
can't.
do
Yes,
it.
You tried
I
and
want to
failed.
say. I'm wondering why the friend, this best friend, this unnamed friend, was the one who gave her the toy loom that was so special. I would think that Grandma
Oh,
might
yeah.
have done that, or if perhaps she had a special relationship with friend's mother.
Why
that
can't
the
you
mother
accept that
knew.
the friend gave it to her?
Sorry.
Why can't you accept that?
Oh, no, I wonder if the mother of the friend knows how much she loves this loom, and the mother of the friend is the one who bought it. She has a special relationship with this mother of the friend because I want her to have maternal love. She has the grandmother, but I want her to have more. And I'm curious where she and Grandma had this letter conversation, where Grandma wrote in big bulk letters on the grocery pad. Was it near the loom, or did Grandma bring her into the kitchen or the dining room to have a separate space to have this discussion? I don't know why it's important, but it is important to me.
Okay.
I assume since it was a grocery pad that it was in the kitchen. Because where else would you keep a grocery pad?
She keeps everything under the loom, so I'm not sure.
So you never know.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
All right, well, everyone good?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Carol,
So
for
good.
submitting your
Thank you,
story.
Carol.
Got lots of good feedback. We hope that it helped you with your story. And thank you, everyone else. Thanks, everyone else, for joining us today. We will see you next time on the next episode of Writers Infusion. Keep writing.